So last night at youth group, I wanted to show one of my favorite commercials that's going around these days. It's the Old Spice commercial with the guy who's in the shower and he's on a horse. I love that. So the reason that I want to show this is because it's so over the top. It's a parody of all advertising. What advertising wants to do is create in us a desire for something that we didn't want before. So now we desire stuff. And Old Spice, of course, is trying to get us to desire Old Spice body wash. And the way that it does that is puts up this kind of good looking guy, right? And he takes on mythical proportions. He almost becomes a god. He says, "Look at me, now look at your man. And your man can never live up to me, but if you buy Old Spice, he can at least smell me." And then the commercial goes on and he takes on even more mythical aspects. He already knows what it is that women want before women know what they want. And the way that he's able to do that is to create a desire. Hey, the tickets to that thing that you always want to go to, yeah, here it is. And he's able to produce diamonds just right out of his hands, out of clamshells and sand. Men are never going to be able to live up to this image, and yet we want to be this guy, and women want this guy. This is everything that a woman wants. At least this is what Old Spice is telling us that men want to be like, and what women want in a man. But is this really what we want? And is it really good to want this? It is a parody, but it's a parody of something that's true. Our cultural ideas of what it means to be a man. And nobody can live up to it. It's saying that we find value in the items that we own, in the things that we are able to produce for the other. That's where our value is to be found. And there's a biblical story that I want to relate this to, and that is King Solomon. King Solomon is the son of the greatest king of all of Israel, David. And King Solomon has this experience where God comes to him and God says, "You can have anything you want." And Solomon asks for wisdom. And God says, "Since you asked for wisdom, I will give you wisdom, but I will also give you wealth, prestige, honor, all of these other great things." And so Solomon gets all this stuff, much like the Old Spice guy has, and he ends up abusing it. He ends up forcing people into labor to build a temple. And this should sound very familiar because this is the whole reason for the Exodus in Egypt, forced labor to build temples. So in this instance, King Solomon, with all of his stuff, becomes like the Pharaoh of Egypt and all of his stuff, and forces people into slavery. And this is a big no-no in the Old Testament. This is the whole reason that God comes and liberates people, is because they're forced into slavery. Now, Solomon gets all of this prestige and honor throughout all of the other nations, and they all come to him and they learn from him. They learn from his wisdom, and his fame spreads throughout. And he has this experience in chapter 10 with the Queen of Sheba, who comes to Solomon, and she says, "Wow, you're even greater than everything that I've always heard about you." And then she gets to the heart of the issue, and she says, "Wow, God put you in charge because God loves all of Israel. And God put you in charge in order to exact justice and righteousness." And this is a conviction of Solomon, because he hasn't acted with justice and righteousness. In fact, he's acted just like Pharaoh. So the Queen of Sheba reminds Solomon that his value is not found in the stuff that he has, in his wealth, in his ability to produce things, but in the way that he treats his fellow human beings, and with justice and righteousness. And what might the Queen of Sheba have to say to the Old Spice guy? She might say, Your value is not found in the way that you smell, or in the way that you look, or in the things that you can produce, or in your fame. But rather, your value is found in the way that you treat your fellow human beings. What might the Queen of Sheba have to say to our culture? What might the Queen of Sheba have to say to you? I'd like to hear your thoughts. Thanks.